Joining me now is Dr. Colin Rubenstein, Executive Director of the Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council. Colin, the Albanese government has overturned decades of foreign policy bipartisanship with a UN vote supporting a resolution urging recognition of Palestine as a state. The Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, claims this will advance peace efforts. What's your response to that argument?
Well, this is a very disturbing decision that Australia has taken. It's confused, it's short-sighted, and it's counterproductive approach in terms of our historical bipartisan commitment to Israel, but also in terms of promoting what they claim they want, and that is towards a negotiated two-state outcome. It effectively rewards terrorism and violence. It's basically saying that mass murder, rape, kidnapping, hostage-taking, these are acceptable and effective tools to achieve legitimacy and international support. As Hamas, of course, is very pleased by this decision, as is the Palestinian Authority, which also needs to undergo a profound change in its culture if it's to be able to be in a position down the track to have an effective role in the governing of a potential Palestinian state in the future. So, Rita, this is, many have said it's a completely unprincipled decision by Australia, joining our enemies at the United Nations, the Flat Earth Organisation, which in the process of passing their resolution further dents its credibility and enhances its tradition, long-standing tradition of extreme anti-Israel bias. But it's also very unprincipled in terms of ditching Israel. I think it's very worrying in terms of inflaming tensions within Australia at a time when anti-Semitism has surged around the world and in this country as well. We see it on our streets, we see it on our universities, and for the government to be taking this position at this time, I think is disturbing for Australia's basic national interest because, as you well know, we're siding with our enemies here and ditching our allies, principally, of course, the United States, but also countries at least who had the decency to abstain, be they the United Kingdom, Canada, and others. So we've aligned ourselves with Iran and Russia and China and North Korea, and we've put ourselves on the wrong side of the ledger. We've done nothing to advance genuine possibility of a resolution of this current war, which is what it is, and certainly nothing in terms of advancing the prospects of long-term reconciliation in the Middle East between Israel and the Palestinians.
Why do you think the Albanese government has come to this position? It is such a significant departure from what we have seen for decades. Is it domestic politics that's motivating this decision? Are they looking at those electorates where there are large Muslim populations and worried about what the backlash there might be at coming elections? What's motivating this decision?
Well, you've said it, and I'm not going to disagree with a good judge like you, but many have commented on the political opportunism at stake and the electoral numbers. It's well known that Labor, both left and right members, are looking at the attitudes and ideology and interests of large numbers in their electorates. It's not a secret at all. This is certainly driving the politics, but also an ideological stance by many members. We see it very clearly in toxic views taken by so many Greens and even Teals. But this ideological hostility to Israel that's developed over the decades, that somehow it's an illegal entity, it's a colonial entity, it's a newcomer, it's perpetrating, terrible atrocities, war crimes and all the rest of it, which are blatantly untrue, in many respects pure and utter blood libel and historically absolutely ignorant. But there is a strong dose of ideology, of commitment by some members, the anti-Israel faction of the Labor Party, as opposed to those who are more familiar with the history and more familiar with Australia's values and traditions and bipartisan stance and the history of their own party, going back to Doc Evatt through to Bob Hawke and Julia Gillard, which understands Israel's situation, is committed to Israel's viability in future, at the same time being committed to a genuine reconciliation and two-state peace through negotiation, which is what mainstream parties still support, which is the position, I think, well articulated by the United States at the General Assembly just a few days ago. That is the way to go. And ironically, I mean, the verbal gymnastics we've heard from the Foreign Minister on the weekend, it really defy understanding and imagination. So Australia is a mixed position, I think, is, as many have said, it's shameful, it trashes the bipartisan support for peace in the Middle East and Israel, which exemplifies the same democratic values and traditions that we uphold. And we've joined the jackals, as former Senator Monahan said back in the days of the 70s, of the Zionism racism resolution, which we should remember historically, its rebuttal and rejection had a lot to do with the leadership of the Hawke Labor government at the time, to the extent that for a while it was called the rebuttal of that.
Colin, we're a long way from...
It was called the Australian Resolution.
We're a long way from the Hawke Labor government with this current lot. Things have changed dramatically, and not for the better, unfortunately. Dr. Colin Rubenstein, thank you so much for your time this evening. Appreciate it.